Welcome back to your feel-good breakfast show, Expresso on SABC3. Now, it cannot be said enough that in South Africa today, we can be very proud of the fact that no matter our race, our gender or religion, we all have the right to live as equals under our constitution. But as we all know, it wasn't always like this, which is why it's important to protect those rights at all costs. And with us in studio, we have Mr. Karam Singh from the South African Human Rights Commission to chat to us about how we can go about protecting human rights in South Africa. And we had a chat earlier on about the importance of this day. And once again, it just can't be overemphasized. But what are some of those fundamental human rights that we all have the right to enjoy today, Karam?
Well, you know, the human rights really spread across the gamut in terms of civil and political rights. Everybody now has the right to vote, the right to join political parties, the right to protest. But in terms of economic and social rights, we're also looking at the right to education, the right to water and sanitation, food, healthcare. So when you're talking about rights, they're really quite a wide-ranging set of principles.
Yeah, and so important for us then to know all of these from the start and the get-go. But as an organization that deals with violations of human rights as they come around and they're being reported to you, what have you seen as some of the most pressing issues that are facing us as South Africans today?
I think, you know, one of the major issues we have is the issue around equality broadly. You know, in some ways it feels like we have two societies, one of privilege and a wealth, and one of underprivilege and dispossession. So I think equality is a major issue. But what we find as an outgrowth of that is also a kind of rise in incidents around race and racism, and particularly now with social media, we're seeing a lot of hate speech. And that's obviously a major concern for us, because we've gone through a reconciliation process in the country, but in some cases it feels like that process is still very incomplete, that we're still a divided society in many ways.
Yeah, and as they say that, you know, if all you do is complain and not offer a solution, then you kind of are part of the problem. So what can the ordinary South African out there do every day to ensure that the human rights that we fought for so hard are protected in every essence?
I think fundamentally we need to build a culture of tolerance and respect for each other. So one of the challenges that we face with hate speech is that, you know, people get angry and then they resort to using very unfortunate language. They resort back into using, in some cases, a lot of racist language. Yeah. So we need to build a culture of tolerance and respect, but we also need to think about how we can actively build a culture of peace, how we can resolve our conflicts, whether it be in the home, whether it be in the workplace or whether it be in schools, without resorting to violence and to anger. So I think we really need to think about how we can build a more of a peaceful society.
And I like what you said there about it starting from home. You know, conversations around the dinner table between parents and their young ones, and trying to kind of shape and mold their minds, right?
Absolutely. You know, and we one of the things that has been a major issue for the Human Rights Commission is the issue of corporal punishment. And you know, a lot of cultures think that chastising their children and resorting to physical means is legitimate. And from the Human Rights Commission's perspective, that's not a legitimate approach. Yeah. That the violence that we see in the home is often the violence that gets replicated in society. So yeah, a lot of it starts at home.
Yeah, and thank you very much for the work that you do to advance human rights in South Africa, Karam, you and your organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now, if you believe that someone's human rights are being violated, lay a complaint with the SA Human Rights Commission on their website, and you can do that at www.sahrc.org.za. And remember, of course, that the past is to be celebrated in order to know where we're going in the future. And of course, as we look to celebrating human rights this coming Saturday, let's all just kind of keep in mind what the day is all about. Now, of course, Human Rights Day is about remembering the sacrifices made by those who fought for our democracy and our human rights today. And we got the chance to meet up with a few South Africans that are going out of their way to really entrench the sense of Ubuntu into all of us.
Preserving our basic rights in South Africa is a challenge, with over 11 million South Africans going hungry and over 4 million being unemployed. In remembrance of Human Rights Day, we look to ordinary South Africans who have identified issues in society and are now giving back and uplifting the underprivileged in their communities.
I used to be married and have a home and everything, and then I lost it when I lost my job, and things went sour quick and I ended up on the street for about 2 years.
JP came to the Youth Solutions Africa shelter with the intention of changing his life. Fueled with purpose, he persevered through the hardships and now runs the soup kitchen at Youth Solutions Africa.
It's always been my dream to give back to my brothers and sisters.
Through the soup kitchen at Youth Solutions Africa, JP feeds between 50 to 80 underprivileged people per day, making it a priority to never serve food that he wouldn't eat himself.
Giving should be a way of life for us all because we've been given so much already. I'm not talking about giving money or whatever, but giving your time, greeting a person that you can see is down and out, just acknowledgement that things will change and that things can be better by just being a human being to that person.
Gerard represents a group of people who have received a great education in South Africa and felt a need to pass it on to the underprivileged children who needed tutoring in English.
I've lived a good life, and being retired now, I felt it was time that if it's possible to give something back with some meaning, it would be a great thing if I could help young children to grow. Our children are not all English speaking. In fact, it's a huge transition for these children to suddenly switch their whole outlook in speaking and learning.
Gerard now assists children to become proficient in English through reading and writing and has great success in bridging the language barrier and promoting bilingualism amongst the youth.
The biggest highlight for me was a pupil that came to us who could not speak a word of English. When he graduated, he was able to read and to write.
For 23-year-old Lesedi, unemployment among his generation was rife in the community of Diepsloot and was a problem they desperately needed a solution for.
I then look for an organization that aim to fight those challenges. And then I found Southern Africa Youth Project, and then just after completing my studies, and then I joined this organization. So we encourage those young people to come to our center to get those trainings and skills for free. It's rewarding and it's very interesting to see those young people after they have successfully completed the course to come back to the center to tell us the successful stories or the good stories on how Southern Africa Youth Project has managed to change their lives.
When it comes to preserving the human rights of our fellow South Africans, we can all make a difference through providing hope for those who've lost theirs and giving your fellow man a second chance at life.